It's wild to me that he's constantly going after the media, but when Harry needs to promote Heart of Invictus,
Absolutely.
he's on Good Morning America. When Harry needs to promote the Invictus Games, he's on the Today Show. When Harry needs to promote Spare, he's sitting down with Anderson Cooper. Harry needs the media too. He just is refusing to acknowledge it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Meghan. She's had a high-powered Hamptons business summit. We'll talk about that. Bet she was wearing Chanel for that. We're going to talk about whether we'll ever see American Riviera Orchard as part of that. We'll talk about Harry claiming that Meghan has too much attention and that he can never bring her back to the UK. Prince Harry's inheritance. Yes, he's got no money, yet there is more money coming along. We'll talk about tabloids on trial and how it is horrific and how they have the audacity to not be ashamed of this crowdfunder for poor Thomas Markle. So we've a lot to dissect. Let's start with this high-powered business meeting, Kinsey, in the Hamptons over Meghan's new brand. So this brand, I mean, I feel like there have been births that have been quicker than this brand. When is the American Riviera Orchard actually going to come? You know when they wait in a Chinese zoo for a panda to conceive and give birth? That happens more quickly than American Riviera Orchard.
Well, Meghan Markle attended a summit in the Hamptons Friday titled the G9 Ventures Summer Summit. This was hosted by a power broker named Amy Griffin, who is, very, very well respected and has very deep pockets here in the States. Meghan, she actually flew from Santa Barbara by private jet with entrepreneur Jamie Kern-Lima. She is a makeup guru. She was a local news personality, and she was trying to figure out how to cover up some of her birthmarks on her face, created this incredible line of cosmetics, sold it for millions of dollars, and now she's a motivational speaker, friends with Oprah Winfrey. So I am not surprised that Meghan is attracted to someone like her. I'm surprised that Jamie is attracted to someone like Meghan. I tried to study under Jamie about 4 or 5 years ago because she, like I said, she's a motivational speaker. You can go to her conferences, things like that. But it gave a little MLM, like, hey girl, like it just was a little bit too much like multi-level marketing feeling. And so I distanced myself. But according to Page Six, Meghan was at this event trying to pick up some tips for American Riviera Orchard. I would argue that I also bet she was trying to find guests for her podcast, which we expect to launch on Lemonada Media in 2025. Meghan's been doing a lot of networking lately. She was also recently seen out with Father of the Bride star Kimberly Williams Paisley out in Santa Barbara and Montecito. So obviously this is picking up steam. She is really trying to put herself out there, trying to make new friends, maybe find some investors, and see what other people can do for her in classic Meghan Markle fashion.
However, that networking hasn't actually stretched to any local farmers or manufacturers that might actually create any kind of product. Now, what you have described is Meghan doing the thing that she does best and selling herself as the product. However, when it comes to jam, bread, any kind of, the tea towels, the dog biscuits, no local farmers or manufacturers in the Santa Barbara district have heard hide nor hair of any of these products actually being created or being approached to make any of these products. So I would suggest that if I was thinking of creating products, I would, network with people that could create products. What do you think?
Well, it certainly sounds like the only thing that is moving forward aggressively is Meghan's new Netflix series, which, according to Page Six, looks gorgeous. This is where she is trying to pull off a Martha Stewart lifestyle type deal. This is expected to come out in 2020, at the beginning of 2025, which surprises me because Lemonada, according to Richard Eden, was paused until 2025 because they apparently did not want to compete with this Netflix series or American Riviera Orchard. They say that it's taking months to edit because it's being synced for countries around the world. But we can see it at the beginning of 2025. Still no date confirmed with all of that information, no date confirmed for the launch of American Riviera Orchard. And my favorite part is that Prince Harry is strongly rumored to make at least a few cameos in the series, which how could he not? What is Meghan Markle without Prince Harry?
And I love that, oh yes, you know, they're taking time to edit it because of all the different markets. No, of course they're not. Meghan is in that edit room making that poor editor's life a living hell. No, my hair is up. No, the lighting isn't good enough. No, I don't like my fingers in that shot on the food. You know that editor, his life is going to be hell. And then he's going to say, Meghan, I think that shot is okay. Don't you dare not call me Duchess. So that poor editor's life will be hell. But it is nice to hear that Harry will be, the door of the cupboard will be unlocked, that Harry is kept in, and he will be allowed to roam freely in the background before being shoved back in the cupboard, because, of course, it is all about Meghan. Now, whether she has any product to actually hoik during this cookery show, who knows? But it's interesting, because on the one hand, she's brilliant at marketing herself, networking, all of those things. She's got a lot of the Ava Perons about her. I've said that before. Yet weirdly, Prince Harry says, but when she comes to the UK, she gets too much attention. It's terrible for her. It's awful. I could never bring her back to the United Kingdom because she has too much attention. Is there such a thing for too much attention for Meghan Markle?
Well, we should probably classify this all within the tabloids on trial conversation, because this is a conversation Prince Harry had with ITV when he spoke of tabloids on trial. And this is all about Prince Harry, his ultimate fight to take down the tabloid media in the UK. At this point, it's a financial issue because it was dealt with criminally a decade ago. And Prince Harry says that he's kind of, it's David versus Goliath, and I guess him and Hugh Grant are David, but they are taking on the tabloid media for hacking. It's horrible. It shouldn't have happened, but it's not a David versus Goliath, Prince Harry. Not a lot of people have millions of dollars to spend on attorneys to fight about something that happened 10 years ago. But the idea that
well-known myth of David, the royal prince and movie star, taking on Goliath. I mean, it is amazing the analogies that he uses to describe himself.
Well, he also calls himself a dragon slayer. He also refers to himself as like somebody still has their video game controller in their hand on a Tuesday at noon. Like get a real job, Harry. But I also wanted to quickly reference back to the Hamptons, where spies told Page Six that Meghan was moving around this restaurant called Zero Bond in the East Hamptons without security. And she stopped to talk to News Nation and former CNN anchor Chris Cuomo. So Harry goes on TV to rip apart the media and say you can't trust the media. And then we've got Meghan in the Hamptons sitting there talking to one of America's most famous media personalities, Chris Cuomo, related brother to Andrew Cuomo, who was the governor of New York, got into a lot of trouble during the pandemic. I mean, Meghan, also Democrats, which I'm leaning towards Meghan endorsing Kamala Harris. But I just think that it's so funny how these two are on such different wavelengths. If the media is evil, why is Meghan Markle stopping at Chris Cuomo's table to have a powwow?
And if security is such a problem, if he's so worried that something terrible could happen to Meghan, then why is she wandering around without any security whatsoever? They really should try and sink their story.
She entered the restaurant by herself.
Yeah.
She walked up to the host stand by herself. Like there's an entire description about how she was by herself in this restaurant. And Prince Harry's literally telling us that we should be worried about Meghan Markle because, it was Thomas Cook was Googling the Princess of Wales before he attempted to assassinate President Donald Trump. Thomas Cook was not Googling Meghan Markle.
Yeah. So that is clearly where the bigger security concern is. But it's interesting because obviously, as you say, there was some criminal behaviour, and if there was any hacking going on, that is absolutely unforgivable. We don't know whether there was hacking when it came to his mother, Princess Diana, who, of course, he references during this interview for good measure. But also, he made a really interesting quote about what is in the public interest and what are the public interested in. And that's the line that he's he's trying to navigate. But for me, the problem I have with this is that this is a prince that has been pictured taking drugs, that has been open about taking loads of drugs, that has acted, in the most horrific way when it comes to nightclubs. Of course, let's not forget the Nazi costume. So it's not like he has not made himself newsworthy when it comes to the tabloids. It's not like he's lived a life where he sort of kept himself to himself within the confines of being a prince. He's actually made himself extremely newsworthy. Then he seems to wonder why he's newsworthy.
Yeah. I really loved Zara's tell-all book where she talked about putting cream on her penis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, exactly that. And I think that all completely undermines where he stands on this. And the other thing, of course, is you're actually absolutely right. The media is absolutely terrible and it's awful, but I'm going to write a book that is so telling about all of these sorts of things, where I reveal the most salacious details about my brother. I actually put my regiment and put the army at risk when it comes to the kills that I've made in order to make money. But boo-hoo, the tabloids are terrible to me. You cannot have it both ways. And I think that there was where Prince William did the right thing and said, right, let's draw a line under this. I'll take it out of court settlement, because he understands that firstly, although the behaviour of some of the tabloids was terrible, you have to have a relationship with them if you want a life of service going forward. But secondly...
Well, Harry has to have a relationship too if he wants people to watch his polo show on Netflix. It's wild to me that he's constantly going after the media, but when Harry needs to promote Heart of Invictus,
Absolutely.
He's on Good Morning America. When Harry needs to promote the Invictus Games, he's on the Today Show. When Harry needs to promote Spare, he's sitting down with Anderson Cooper. Harry needs the media too. He just is refusing to acknowledge it. There is a new story that started circulating over the weekend. According to a new book by Robert Jobson, Prince William was asked to sign a waiver after clashing with King Charles over the issue of the Prince of Wales flying in a helicopter with his family. Now, this comes from Jobson's new book called Catherine, the Princess of Wales. He wrote, after being diagnosed with cancer, King Charles, perhaps reminded of his own mortality, echoed his late mother's concerns, because apparently the late Queen Elizabeth, also loathed the idea of Prince William in a helicopter. Jobson says, and when William refused to stop flying with his family, Charles insisted that he sign a formal document acknowledging the risks involved in taking full responsibility for his actions. It would be scant consolation, of course, for an unspeakable tragedy, let alone for the prospect of King Harry and Queen Meghan. Well, that just gives you goosebumps. Hey, but Rupert, this is kind of protocol, right? Are we making something out of nothing? It's typical that we try to keep, the monarch in the air, traveling separately. It's just, at the end of the day, logistics, don't you believe?
I think ultimately it is a logistic thing. You have to, the air, so you have to. And look, while air travel, we know, in the main, is incredibly safe. And yes, William is a helicopter pilot. That was something he loved doing and loves flying his helicopter. But actually, it is actually a protocol, because you can't, the air in the same, it's like the royal family always travel, sadly, with clothes for mourning, to be in mourning. It's always packed. You remember the pictures of the late Queen when she traveled to Kenya all those days ago. She was in Kenya having a lovely time. Okay, part state, but in Kenya, but had to come back. But that clothing was ready with her. So it is protocol. But I think it's probably, when you say clash, I think probably had a discussion. It needed to be explained. And the reality of the new now, which is that the king is, I'll tell you what, the lights have gone off again in here. Sorry, I got even darker. I don't know why. I'm on a timer. What is happening? I'm sorry. But all I can say is, I think I understand why this is happened. It is protocol, but it's William probably having to accept the now, which is he is the heir. He can't be traveling with his future heir, i.e. his son. So it is a logistical thing. Of course, we all's families like to travel together, but it is something they're going to have to work out how they manage going forward.
Can I tell you my favorite new part that I've seen so far? I've not had the opportunity to read Robert Jobson's book about Catherine yet, but one of the details I read was about Prince William and Catherine's wedding night. He said, as they stood grinning and holding hands in the middle of the room, this is in Buckingham Palace, the opening bars of the song, You're the One That I Want, suddenly boomed out. To their friends' delight, William and Catherine launched into the dance of the lead characters from the film Grease, mouthing the words and pointing to each other. That is one of my favorite movies. That is one of my favorite movie moments. The fact that just visualizing these two singing that together and knowing that they love the same movies that we do, it is just such a fun takeaway from this book.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think what it shows is that they obviously went to university, their love affair was on off. I think they just worked it out. And I think that was the important thing about their courtship. When you look back, it was not always smooth. It was actually Kate having to work out, could she take this job on? And let's be honest, it doesn't just come, I'll marry you and away we go. And that's why I think one of the problems for Meghan is that she, it's all fine and dandy to be the Duchess of Sussex, but it comes with a responsibility that is not just, you can't control it. You are then consumed by the role of being the future king's wife. And it is a tough one, but at least, the wedding night, I hope that the party they had, and I hope they rocked the joint. I didn't think you were old enough to even know that that film came out in the 70s, Kinsey, but sadly, I remember the film first time round, and it clearly, for a lot of people, was a very iconic moment. Olivia Newton-John doing the dance with John Travolta.
Oh yeah, she had to get sewn into those pants. Yeah, and then you think about the fact that I didn't know that I knew that Princess Diana had a relationship with John Travolta based on that White House dance. But I didn't realize that there was a love for this movie, which I really appreciate. And now we know that Prince Harry is trying to keep in touch with John Travolta. He was awarded an aviation award. So John Travolta, a lot of history there that I didn't even realize existed when it came to Diana's boys, other than the aviation award. Here's a funny revelation that came out of their recent financial report. It's that Prince William cut off Queen Camilla's sister from the royal payroll after 2 decades of service. Of course, this is a sensational headline, but at the end of the day, a source told, I believe it was the Telegraph, that it was no reflection on the work of Camilla's sister. I think it's great that she's an interior designer, and she, on her resume now, it says she worked for the royal family for 20 years. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and actually, there's never been any question mark about Annabel Elliott working for the Duchy of Cornwall. And it's not as if she doesn't come with a very good high-powered reputation. Now, you've always got to be mindful that when you've got family around, that people are immediately going to say, well, she's only got the job because of who she is. And I think it probably makes perfect sense in many ways. My lights have just suddenly come on. I don't know. Who's paid the bill here?
Sorry, your room is haunted. It's not even this isn't even our Halloween special yet, Rupert. Your room is haunted.
Something going on here. Anyway, so be prepared for me to be thrown into darkness again. But I digress. But I actually understand why Annabel Elliott, they've come to the end, because it's now Prince William's gig, in it way. And I've heard that William Van Cutsem is now going to be brought into the fold to work with William. Now, he's one of his oldest friends. He runs successful companies. So actually what you're looking at there is the passing of the baton. Now, he's bringing in a trusted friend and confidant. Someone, though, when you look, it's not just someone he's dragged off the street, but someone who's run successful businesses. So, and that's certainly he and William, as we know, likes to have trusted people around him, because it is complicated, because what he doesn't want is things being leaked here, left, right, and center. And someone like William Van Cutsem, who knows both William and Harry very well, I can see why that's happening. And for Annabel Elliott, look, she's now, probably, I think she's in her 70s, probably makes sense that now she can be more in to just help her sister in the job of being the current queen and all that entails, bearing in mind that the king is still recovering from cancer.
The Princess of Wales found putting on that show of unity after the Queen's death, walking around Windsor, how that was the hardest thing she'd ever had to do. And I was reminded that Catherine is not the actress. It's Meghan Markle that's the actress, and Catherine put on a much more stoic show. She was much more strong and she just looked
very much. I thought she was.
A lot of dignity, and she looked a lot more comfortable in that position than Meghan did on that day. As I hate
that's
to.
True. Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think she was more sure-footed that day.
First of all, congratulations on the book. I got to see a few pages of it, and you found, without a doubt, my favorite subject in the entire world and created a beautiful book about it. So congratulations, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. It's coming out here in the States, August the 6th. I hope you're so proud of it, because it's just a wonderful description of a fierce young woman who one day we look forward to seeing as queen.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to give the bigger picture about Kate. A lot of people like to sort of grab at the headlines, and that's what happens with serialization. But really, it's when you read the book as a whole, it's talking about her as a whole and the person that she's become from, when she was a kid through to the current day. And we're talking about somebody that's had a pretty unremarkable background in terms of us, but in terms of the royal family, this is a woman that will play a pivotal role going forward. Her kids are all born princes and princesses. Her husband was born a prince. Her father-in-law was born destined to be a king. That she was a girl that went to work on a double-decker bus, and so, she's crucial to making sure that the monarchy stays in touch with the people that they serve. I mean, because she has been very much one of them. Her grandfather, let's face it, was a painter and decorator. There's a lot written about trying to beef that up, but that's what he was, and that's a great profession. So was my grandfather. So she's in touch with reality. That's the point.
I had no clue that she grew up, kind of culturally, she was in a blender, and how wonderful. Like, as a child, learning Arabic, I mean, that had to have shaped how welcoming she is, how eager she is to learn, new things. What surprised you about her childhood?
Exactly that. I think what was great about my mum and dad is they were open to going to live somewhere else. So Dad got offered a job in Jordan, which is a great country. I've been there myself. And they were able to live there and be part of that culture. So that one morning they'd be reading from the Bible, one morning they'd be listening in childish tales, about the Quran, another about something else. So I think that was quite interesting. That's probably why she spent so much time focused on early learning, because in that first years between 1 and 5, you do pick up so much. And hers was, as you say, very culturally diverse and in a different country. And so therefore, I mean, to put it bluntly, all this talk of racism that came up later from Meghan Markle was utter baloney. This is a girl that's very diverse, comes from a very diverse education and diverse experience. So there's no way that would even enter her head, So that was all. I think as a kid to grow up in the way she did, it was fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that too. And you make that point in the book, how kind of ridiculous all of those accusations are. And I'm grateful for you. Of course, you're talking about some of these serializations and the headlines they're making. One of the big ones is the idea that Prince William has been asked to sign a waiver when it comes to flying in the helicopter with his family. You say not only did the Queen have an issue with this, but also King Charles. I do think that it's been kind of sensationalized. You say yourself within the book, after being diagnosed with cancer, King Charles, perhaps reminded of his own mortality, echoed his late mother's concerns. So basically, you're just saying King Charles is thinking about the future. He is focused on the future, and this is not necessarily a fist fight going on behind the scenes. He just wants Prince William to know the reality of maybe some safety concerns.
Well, I think by making him sign a waiver, what you're doing is focusing his mind. by saying that you shouldn't really do it. And we'll wait and see if he continues to do it. I mean, I know the Queen raised the issue with him and was quite disappointed when he flew his whole entire family up to Norfolk on one occasion, because she said you have to think about the succession. Well, think about the succession. If something terrible did happen, and helicopter crashes have happened. I mean, we've seen so many very high-profile people that situations like that have happened, and the chances of survival for something like that are pretty slim, as we've seen with in the past. So the succession will be an issue, wouldn't it? It'll be Harry, that will be King Harry and Queen Meghan. So that's a reality of it. That is what would be in terms of the line of succession if everyone was to perish. So I don't think they're being over the top. They're just saying that the heir to the throne and the spare to the heir, the next one in line, shouldn't really travel, and that's him and Prince George. But of course, that makes it difficult when he wants to take him to, say, I don't know, going to watch the football, on an aeroplane together. I think that's not really the issue. The aeroplanes, it's the helicopter. And I think that the King was just conscious that if William is going to do it, then he has to then take full responsibility. So he feels that he has raised that issue in an appropriate way. I think it wasn't a direct confrontation with his father. I think it was one of the aides who approached with this waiver, and I think that sort of upset him a little bit. But it's bang on, yeah.
And it's protocol. I feel like they've always tried to separate the heir, and then like little Prince George, that just seems like something that has happened forever.
Makes common sense, really.
Yeah. So I
think the King's being correct in what he's saying, as was the late Queen. Yeah.
The one passage that I have been cheering like crazy, I sent it to my parents at 6 o'clock in the morning yesterday. I'm sure that they really appreciated waking up to that. And I'm just my face hurts from smiling about it. You have details about William and Catherine's wedding night. You write, as they stood grinning and holding hands in the middle of the room, the opening bars of the song, You're the One That I Want, suddenly boomed out. To their friends' delight, William and Catherine launched into the dance of the lead characters from the film Grease, mouthing the words and pointing at each other. And then you're just so sweet. You say, Prince William finally found the one that he wanted. I love that part. That was it painted such a fun image, visually stimulating image of these two, wild, carefree, loving a movie we all love, loving a song we all love. Do you have any other details from that night? And
well, I mean, I think that really sums up how much fun they were having. I mean, they were very young. They'd been together nearly pretty much a decade actually when they got married, but the point of it is they were able to be relaxed, and I think that in private they are just quite carefree people and let their hair down. And that night was a great night for that, and the lot that was surrounded by all their family and friends. And you can only wish William and Catherine the world of love and happiness, because I think that in the last, that moment, it reminds us of a time which was a little bit more carefree. They were further down the pecking order. The Queen was still around. It was a very different time. And what we've seen since in the last 3 or 4 years, a lot of weight and responsibility has been, on William. He was totally crestfallen when he found his dad had got cancer. Then he found his wife is treated as well. He's had to face a lot of responsibilities. So it's nice to remember, I think, the carefree times that they had, and they did. They had a lot of special carefree times, and they were able to enjoy that period. Let's just hope, they're still able, as with the young family to raise, they still have time to spend with them as well, in terms of not being weighed down too much by responsibility until that moment comes when they're king and queen.
Here is a complete timeline of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez's relationship. Some might call it the A to Z of Bennifer. And yes, I am 100% wearing a velour tracksuit in honor of Jenny from the block. In 2001, Jen meets Ben. The pair first met on the set of their movie rom-com Geely. While the movie bombed at the box office, those flames couldn't compete With J-Lo and Ben's chemistry, according to Us Weekly, J-Lo was married to her second husband, Chris Judd, but she filed for divorce shortly after she met Ben Affleck. She was wild about the Good Will Hunting star. In 2002, Ben made a cameo in Jennifer's Jenny from the Block music video. The video acts as commentary on the tabloids' obsession with the relationship, which we know still exists today. It included surveillance footage and pap photos of the two like on yachts and walking down the street holding hands. I still love that video, and it is still a bop to this day. In November of 2002, just like that, the pair are engaged. Jennifer confirmed the engagement in an interview with Diane Sawyer. She explained that Ben proposed to her with a 6.1 carat pink diamond from Harry Winston that reportedly cost $2.5 million. She was over the moon. In 2003, Ben and Jen collaborated together on yet another movie. Jennifer played the dead wife of Ben's character in Jersey Girl. Jennifer Lopez's brief appearance as Ollie's Affleck's wife, who dies early in the film, was noted primarily due to their then high-profile relationship. Some critics felt her presence was more of a distraction than a meaningful part of the movie. Jersey Girl did not perform well at the box office and was considered a commercial disappointment. It struggled to find an audience, particularly due to the negative buzz surrounding Affleck and Lopez's previous film, Geely. In September 2003, Bennifer mysteriously postponed their wedding just days before the two were set to officially get married. They released a joint statement. It said, due to the excessive media attention surrounding our wedding, we have decided to postpone the date. When we found ourselves seriously contemplating hiring 3 separate decoy brides at 3 different locations, we realized that something was awry. We began to feel that the spirit of what should have been the happiest day of our lives could be compromised. We felt what should have been a joyful and sacred day could be spoiled for us, our families, and our friends. In January of 2004, we discovered that the relationship was over. On January 22nd, the two publicly ended their engagement. Jennifer confirmed the news through her spokesperson, saying, "I am confirming the report that Jennifer Lopez has ended her engagement to Ben Affleck. At this difficult time, we ask that you respect her privacy." Looking back on this time in their lives in 2010, Jennifer talked about the pressure in the media that was put on their relationship during a guest appearance on the Graham Norton show. She said, "I love Ben. He's a great guy, but it was a lot for both of us to be under that type of siege for 2 years straight." She said, "We were on the cover of every magazine every week. It was just a weird thing. Our relationship, I think, did suffer because of that. That's not the only reason, but I think it definitely played a part in the dynamic of our relationship." Now, in a 2022 interview with Apple Music, she said, "It was so painful after we broke up. Once we called off that wedding 20 years ago, it was the biggest heartbreak of my life. And I honestly felt like I was going to die. It set me on a spiral for the next 18 years where I couldn't get it right. But now, 20 years later, it does have a happy ending. It has the most would never happen in Hollywood ending. They would be like, that would never happen, so we're not going to write that because nobody would believe it ending." Now back to 2004, only months after their official breakup in June of 2004, Jennifer Lopez marries Mark Anthony, the Mark Anthony. In her 2014 book, True Love, Jennifer remembers the period between announcing her split from Ben and marrying Mark, who is an international sensation, saying, "Ben and I split up at the moment when I thought we were committing to each other forever. It was my first real heartbreak. It felt like my heart had been torn out of my chest. I sought out comfort in another person, tried to find someone who could make me feel loved, and wanted it In my loneliest hour, Mark came back into my life 3 days after I should have been at the altar saying I do to another man. She said, thinking back, maybe deep down, I knew this was a Band-Aid on that cut, that my wound hadn't been stitched or healed. Mark and Jen welcomed twins in 2008. They separated, sadly, in 2014. Only a year after Jennifer is married, Ben Affleck marries actress Jennifer Garner in 2005. The couple welcomed 3 children together over the years. The two divorced in 2018. A lot of discussion about the split focused on Ben's relationship with alcohol, but the pair have remained close friends and are often, to this day, photographed together, hugging and laughing, and they seem to be very, very good friends. In April 2021, drumroll please, Bennifer reunites. All it took was a plague. Jen ended her highly publicized engagement to athlete Alex Rodriguez, and almost immediately, reports started circulating that Ben Affleck was photographed visiting Jen's LA home. Less than a month later, a source told E! News, they really care for each other and they picked up right where they left off. A source told People they both seemed committed to making things work. Fast forward to 1 year later, Ben and Jen engaged again. After adding a diamond ring emoji to her Twitter name, Jennifer announced that she and Ben had gotten engaged in an exclusive video published to her personal fan newsletter in April of 2022. Did you ever imagine your biggest dream could come true? She wrote. Saturday night, while at my favorite place on earth in the bubble bath, my beautiful love got on one knee and proposed. I was taken totally off guard and just looked in his eyes, smiling and crying at the same time, trying hard to get my head around the fact that after 20 years, this was happening all over again. I was quite literally speechless. And he said, "Is that a yes?" I said, "Yes, of course that's a yes." Bennifer tied the knot in a surprise Las Vegas wedding at midnight on July 17th, 2022. Jennifer wrote, "They were right when they said all you need is love. We are so grateful to have that in abundance, a new wonderful family of 5 amazing children, and a life that we have never had more reason to look forward to." She added, "Stick around long enough and maybe you'll find the best moment of your life in a drive-through in Las Vegas at 12:30 in the morning in the Tunnel of Love drive-through with your kids and the one you'll spend forever with. Love is a great thing, maybe the best of things and worth waiting for."